New at NAMT, the next wave of musical theater writers, is a bite-sized series dedicated to spotlighting the emerging voices in musical theater. Every interview provides a unique glimpse into the creative minds behind the next big musicals. So whether you're a producer, theater lover, or even simply curious about the future of musical theater, New at NAMT offers a front row seat to a new generation of creators. New at NAMT Season 3 Arts leaders will highlight associate artistic directors and artistic producers from NAMT member organizations. It's time to lower the lights, raise the curtain, and LX1 go on New at NAMT. Now, I am your host, Jean-Paul Yovanoff from Musical Theater Radio, and joining me as co-host for Season 3 is Skye Ivey, the new works associate at NAMT. Hello, Skye.
Hi, how's it going?
Good. What's going on with you right now?
So, I actually have a quick challenge update for us before we get into today's interview. So, we are currently in draft two of the Musical Theater Songwriting Challenge for high school students, which means our student songwriters are hard at work on their draft two submissions. This year, we received 90 draft one submissions from 104 students in 27 states. So, after receiving feedback in early March, they have now about a month to revise their songs before submitting a second draft. This is the draft that will make them eligible for Winners Weekend, which will take place in New York City this June. So, to support their rewriting journey, we've launched the Writing is Rewriting and Rewriting Songwriting Resource Center, excuse me. So, this is a hub for the student songwriters and also a general info spot for any musical theater writer seeking more education. You can check that out at namp.org/rewriting. We've also been hosting online events led by NAMT artists to help the Draft One Challenge participants through the rewriting process. And I just have to give a big shout out to NAMP's program assistant, Amanda Friedman, who's created this resource center and been leading these educational events. It's been really incredible. We've had super high engagement from all of the student songwriters, and the whole process has been really rewarding for all of us.
I'm looking forward to hearing the students this year's student songs again. They were great last year. I expect the same this year. So now that we've talked to Skye and we get to know all about that, let's get to the interview. Today we are speaking with Brandon Ivie. Now, Brandon is a New York and Seattle-based director and producer whose specialty in developing new work has taken him to Broadway, across the country, and around the world. He developed and directed Justin Huertas' Lizard Boy, which recently had its New York City premiere off-Broadway in 2023 and received 3 Drama Desk nominations, including Best Musical. He is directed at such Tony-winning theaters as Oregon Shakespeare Festival, Seattle Rep, Paper Mill Playhouse, Williamstown Theater Festival, Theater Works Silicon Valley, Goodspeed Musicals, and in New York City at the Public Theater Joe's Pub, Here Arts Center, Musical Theater Factory, and Prospect Theater. Internationally at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival and Hope Mill Theater, and at such colleges as NYU, Pace University, Ohio Northern University, and University of Washington. He is currently the Associate Artistic Director of Village Theater in Seattle, creative producing their main stage season of plays and musicals, and spearheading their expansive new works program. He is the Gregory Award-winning founding artistic director of Contemporary Classics and spent 4 seasons on the artistic staff at the Fifth Avenue Theater. Brandon, welcome to New at NAMT.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Brandon, thanks so much for taking the time to chat with us today. I'm excited to get into it. Everyone has a unique path into theater. Can you tell us about your journey? How did you get started and what brought you to this point in your career?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I feel like I kind of started like many theater folks did. I did youth theater when I was younger. I did I there was a the town I grew up in an all school district youth theater that I performed in every summer, and that got me, I got bit by the bug. And I had the great privilege of growing up in Seattle, where there's a ton of theater and especially a lot of new musical development, which until I moved to New York later in life, didn't really understand that that wasn't something that every kid had in their backyard. I, grew up like 15 minutes from two of the biggest new musical development companies in the country. And when I think I was 16, I went to my first festival of new musicals at Village Theater, which is now where I work. And I met Brian Yorkey, who was the associate artistic director here at Village then, who would go on to write Next to Normal, and many other things, TV shows, all kinds of stuff. And he really became my mentor. And so I started learning how to read scripts and do dramaturgy and develop new musicals since I was in high school, which is just sort of crazy. So I went to college for theater. I stuck around in Seattle for a bit and worked at the Fifth Avenue for 4 seasons. And then I moved to New York. I was there for 9 years and was the associate director on a couple Broadway shows. I was freelance directing and dramaturging and producing across the country, mostly developing new musicals. And then I got my current job at here at Village in 2016, and moved back to Seattle permanently in March of 2020, just before everything changed. And I've been out here ever since.
Tell us more about your role at Village Theater and the organization's history with new works.
Sure, yeah. In my job, I wear many hats. I'm the artistic producer of all of our main stage shows. I'm also the head of casting, and I oversee all of our new musical development. Village has been doing new musicals, specifically new musicals, since its second season, which was over 40 years ago. So essentially, our entire existence has had new musicals somewhere in the fabric of the company. And historically, we've done a wide range of new musical development from, small things like residencies, readings, workshops, and then larger things like developmental productions. And then on our main stage, we do world premieres and second productions. And then there's all kinds of things in the middle. Since I've been here, we've done a choreography workshop for a show. We did an instrument and orchestration workshop for an actor-musician show. So it's really, really wide-ranging depending on the pieces that come through our doors.
And can you talk about how being based in the Seattle area and what you were speaking to before, there's so much new works development in Seattle. Can you talk about how that informs Village Theater's approach to producing and developing new musicals?
Yeah, well, there's a bunch of different ways that it impacts what we do. I think the biggest, most sort of at the forefront of it is because there is so much new musical development in Seattle, whether it be at Village or the Fifth Avenue or Seattle Rep or any number of other organizations in town. Our actors and artists, directors, music directors, stage managers are really used to it and get to do it a lot. And I think that's something that is actually surprising to some writers when they come out here, is that this community does this often. And so there's actually a lot that you can learn from folks that get to do this a lot and have a point of view on it. So I think that's a lovely surprise that some people get leaving New York, because I think, for good reason, we think of New York as sort of like the place where new musicals are developed. But I do think that like regionally, there's a ton of different cities and different organizations that do it really well. And I think the Seattle community is kind of especially good at it because there has been this long-term commitment from multiple organizations for decades. And then, producing wise, it helps us be able to actually develop stuff because we don't have to fly in every single artist to do a reading. There is a deep well of talent out here. And so it makes it, sometimes it's cheaper to do a reading in Seattle than it is to do in New York and fly people out to Seattle, which doesn't always seem like the most obvious choice. When I'm talking to producers, I sometimes say like, you can get a 5-week developmental production of a show for the cost of a 3-week reading in New York. So there's also, some producerial things that make it nice to do something in Seattle as well.
Cool. I'd love to hear more about Village Theater's Festival of New Musicals. Can you talk to us about how Village approaches supporting new musicals and writers?
Yeah, we've been doing our Festival of New Musicals since 2001, and it's just like musical theater summer camp for a week. It's so much fun, and we've had audience members coming since year one. It's really great to have this sort of like return every year of there's a really wonderful community that likes to support it. And even our audiences are educated in how new musicals work. That's another thing that when artists come out here, they're really surprised, pleasantly so, about how our audiences engage in new work because they've had decades of seeing it and being asked what they think about it, and they're brought along for the ride and how these shows develop. And so, oftentimes when we do talkbacks, writers are terrified to do a talkback because they just don't want, unsolicited opinions from muggles about how they would rewrite the musical. And we've kind of trained them in a way that they understand what is actually helpful to the process and what is sort of not their job and not their lane. But the festival is so much fun. It's what got me into new musicals in the first place. And it's a weekend of readings, full readings of new musicals for a big audience, a big public audience. I think one of the things that is cool about it is that it's open to the public. So it's not just an industry crowd or your friends and family that see it. It is just, Joe Schmoes coming in that are just, regular audience members. And I think that's a really important thing to be able to test a new musical in front of before you're in a full production. Because, musicals are so structurally complicated. And once you're going in one direction, it's really hard to steer that ship if you realized you want to change something very foundational about it. And so I think getting information from audiences at a reading stage can sometimes be really, really useful. So there's readings, there's concerts, there's talkbacks, there's panel discussions, there's events, there's parties. It's just a really good time. And we're, in this wonderful town. One of our theaters is in Issaquah, which is about 30 minutes east of Seattle, and it's sort of tucked in the mountains almost. You look out, you walk out the theater and you see this sort of like glorious mountainscape and a really kind of cute main street. It's just a really idyllic place to hang out and like geek out about new musicals.
You're making me want to head out there. I don't know how and when, but I
And
want to do that.
we do it in August, which is we have the most glorious summers in Seattle. It's like it's like nothing else. So it's the perfect time to do this stuff.
That's awesome. What do you find most rewarding about working with artists so early on in their developmental process of a show?
I think being able to help a show find its voice, I think is one of the most rewarding things that I get out of this. There's once a show is at a full draft, it's in many ways it's very solid. Like it knows what it is and knows what direction it's going. And some of my most rewarding experiences developing new work is when you're able to get in on like a truly ground floor of the shows that I think of as the most rewarding for me are like when writers pitch me a 30-second blurb of like, I have a musical about this thing that I want to write, but I haven't started it yet. And I can say, oh, that sounds like a great idea, and you're a really talented writer, and I want to help you make that a reality. There's an example that I love of a show that I actually saw a video of a song in a songwriter's concert at, I think it was 54 Below, posted on Facebook. And it was like, here's a song from this new musical that I'm writing. And I watched it 10 times and I loved the song. And I wrote to the writer and I was like, hey, I'd love to know more about this show that you're working on. And they were like, awesome, great. I'll send you some materials. And 2 weeks later, they sent 2 demos and like a 2-page treatment for the show. And I read it. I was like, oh my gosh, this is great. Come out. We're going to give you a residency and let's just start writing the show. They were like, oh, great. They came out, did a residency, wrote the whole first act in a week, which is insane. Was not expecting that. And so then we said, wow, this is great. If you can finish it by like May, we'll put it in our festival in August. And they went, great. And they finished it in May. We put it in the festival in August. And at the festival, they were like, just so you know, in those 2 weeks between you asking to see more about the show and us sending you that 2-page treatment, that's when we wrote the 2-page treatment. Like they had nothing other than a great idea and a song written. And it took someone seeing them, really seeing them and seeing the potential in this idea and them as writers to go like, yeah, I am gonna write this thing. And we have now, gone through 4 or 5 different developmental steps with that show. And just the fact that we were able to help breathe life into that project quite literally is really, really exciting to me.
Yeah, that's really cool. Um, so of course we have to talk about Lizard Boy, which was in the NAMT Festival in 2020. You've been a part of that team for a really long time. Can you tell us how you originally got involved with the show?
Oh, Lizard Boy, the love of my life. I it is just the most glorious project that I've been able to have a hand in. Yeah, I came on board to that project when it was, I don't know, 30 minutes long, 45 minutes long, or something like that. It's a really wonderful story of how that entire project happened in the first place. The late great artistic director of Seattle Rep, Jerry Manning, saw Justin Huertas, the writer of Lizard Boy, in a concert playing cello in the band. And Justin had been an actor in a Seattle Rep show, and he was still pretty young at the time, in his mid-20s, and didn't know that he played cello. And so he told Justin to come to his office because he had an idea. And he said, I don't know what it is, but I see you playing cello in a show you wrote on our Leo K stage, their smaller stage. And Justin's like, well, I've never written anything before. And Jerry says, that's okay, you'll figure it out. And commissioned Justin on the spot, a first time, like never before produced playwright, and spent a year or so writing. And Jerry put up the very first reading of the show when it was like still very, very much in development. And what was supposed to be sort of a solo show for Justin about his coming out experience and sort of autobiographical in nature turned very quickly into this 3-person. He basically kind of used his coming out story as metaphorically in this comic book coming out story, and it turned into this, like, 3-person rock musical. And Jerry did one reading and was like, Grandpa's too old to direct this. I got to find somebody that knows how to do this. And he had seen some of my work. And so he suggested me to Justin. And Justin and I have known each other since high school. And so Justin went, I know Brandon, that would be great. I'd love to work with him on it. And so I came on board then, and that was 10 years ago. We actually celebrated our 10-year anniversary of the opening night of the Seattle Rep production yesterday. So it's been, I guess, for me, almost 11 years at this point, that I've been working on the show, along with our other collaborators, Kiki Delore and Bill Williams, who are actors in the show that predate me. They were in that very first reading that I wasn't a part of. So it's just been a joy, and to be able to see that piece through so many different readings and workshops, and I don't know, 5 or 6 productions at this point. It's been wild and crazy and a joy.
It must be so exciting to be working with a show for that long. And then what was it like directing it off Broadway with NAMT member theater prospect musicals?
Oh, it was so great. It was so much fun to return to Prospect. I had been there a few years, I mean, long time before, I guess, doing another new musical called Jasper and Deadland. So it was like so much fun. They do such an amazing job of supporting new musicals, and it was really a dream to introduce the show to New York. We had done a couple readings, presentations in New York, so a lot of kind of industry folks knew of the show, but hadn't been able to get an opportunity to see it fully produced, because weirdly, all of our productions were either on the West Coast or in the UK. So no one on the East Coast had really had a chance to see it. So it was great. It was great. And we got like Drama Desk nominations, and it was really wild.
I don't know if you remember, Brandon, but the first time we met was actually at a Lizard Boy rehearsal at Art New York, where I am now, when you were here rehearsing for Prospect. And I like came in to say hi. And then I kind of felt like you and Justin and Kiki and everybody like just like grabbed me and was like, you should stay and watch. And I feel like that is so much like so often the opposite experience, right? You peek into a rehearsal room and you sneak out because nobody wants you to like hang out there. But it was so warm and you were like, everyone wanted me to stay and watch. And it was really cool.
I totally remember meeting you
And
in that moment.
yeah,
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah. And I didn't realize you and Justin had known each other since high school. That's pretty cool. That's very
Yeah, I
amazing.
mean, weirdly, it all comes back to Village. We were both village has a youth education program called Kid Stage.
Wow,
And
yeah.
when I sort of like aged out of my like school district youth theater, I started doing Kid Stage. And I did Kid Stage in Issaquah, in our Issaquah location, and then we have another location that's like 45 minutes north of Seattle in Everett, Washington. And Justin was in that program. And so like the two cities, like the Issaquah kids will go to Everett to watch their show, and the Everett kids will go to Issaquah to watch their show. So like I saw Justin play Willard in Footloose, and I think he was Judas in Godspell.
Amazing.
And like, you know, we would go back and forth. So I like we weren't
Yeah.
like crazy close, but we have gotten crazy close over the 11 years working on Lizard Boy.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Do you want to talk to us more about your collaboration with Justin and the rest of the team?
Oh, I would love to, because it's literally like my favorite thing. It is like truly the definition of collaboration when I talk about how we work on Lizard Boy together. Justin is the most giving, kind, open writer, and especially for Lizard Boy, because it is really Justin is the writer, absolutely, but the way that he works with myself as director and Kiki Delore and Bill Williams as the actors, it is really a group effort, and he takes all of our thoughts and questions and things into consideration. So much so that like I think when people come in and watch us build something new, it's one thing to watch us sort of like remember what we did last time, but when Justin writes a new song, it's really crazy when people watch us do it because they kind of don't understand what's going on at first. Like our rehearsal process is like some mix of, you know, rehearsal and garage band practice and happy hour and sleepover. Like it all sort of like blends together where Justin will like bring in a new song and he'll play it for us, and Bill will be, you know, the one that will be needing to play guitar. So the second time we sing through it, like Bill will sort of start to play along with Justin, and Kiki will kind of hum along with the melody. And then Kiki will sort of go like, "Oh, I think the melody might want to go a little bit like this." And Bill will start to like ooh while he's playing and go, "Oh, I think the chugs of the guitar might do this." And I'll say like, "Oh, could there be like a chord change here? Because I think the staging you might actually like cross over this way, or there might be a picture change here." And then they'll start to like harmonize with each other. And then I'll say, "Oh, but what if you make a big cross during this and there's a big swell and we change key and blah 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 blah." And then by the end, and then Justin will go and like start playing cello while Bill is doing guitar. And then I'll say, like, "Oh, but if you picked up your cello later and then we moved it over here, and then like an hour or two later, there's a brand new song that has been like taught, vocal arranged, orchestrated, and staged all at once. And then it's just in the show." Like, and people watch,
Incredible.
yeah, and people watching sort of like if you blink, you will sort of like miss it happening, and then all of a
Totally.
sudden there's just like a new thing sitting there kind of done.
Wow.
And probably in the middle we went on some tangent about some story about when Kiki and Justin went to Disneyland or something, you know, like it I think people think we're just kind of messing around until then they see like, oh, it's done.
Lizard Boy sounds like an incredible experience. I think everybody should, you know, at some point in their life have that opportunity. But you know, congratulations on that. It sounds like incredible. But can you tell us another partnership or collaboration you've been a part of that felt especially, you know, transformative?
I mean, to me, as a producer, I've really loved these collaborations, kind of that I talked about earlier, about helping artists and writers, you know, breathe life into their shows from a really early stage. It's been really thrilling as a producer to be able to figure out how to support those shows from those early stages. And I actually think a lot of my work on Lizard Boy and the collaboration of that has helped me take some of those principles and apply that actually to my producing, and how to figure out how to be a producer that supports artists in a very specific way that is unique to whatever that process is. And so that has impacted sort of the way that I approach, what the next step for a piece is. It's really easy to get caught up in, the 29-hour reading circuit of every that's, it's a very basic, easy place for a show to land in a developmental process. But some shows aren't ready for that, and some shows are beyond that, and some shows have elements that particular step isn't going to be beneficial for. So that's when it's been really fun to really figure out what shows need at that particular moment. And that's when some of the most fun developmental steps have happened for me. There's I talked about a show that is an actor musician show, and we did an orchestration workshop so that they could figure out like what is even reasonable for an actor musician to do, and like how complicated can these parts be while they also have to sing and act. Or we did a show that is about competitive aerobics, and how do you actually incorporate the aerobics into the storytelling? And so we did a choreography aerobics workshop so that the choreographer could really work with the writers on how to support the movement of the show. There's been puppet workshops. There's been all kinds of things that there's all these other elements to a show that can help it soar, that are maybe a little outside of the box. And that's really, really exciting to me.
Can you tell us how being a part of an organization like NAMT has impacted your work?
Oh man, NAMT has been so useful in just like connecting with people across the country that are doing the same thing and have the same passions. And being able to, and those connections can mean many different things. It can mean partnering on shows together. It can mean telling people about shows that you might not be able to produce, or shows that you're fans of that aren't right for your audience or theater or resources. It's also great to hear what other people are doing and how they're supporting new work. Being able to see just how people are doing it is really useful, and go, oh, I love that in your festival you support your artists in this way or that way, or in your readings you have this particular process. It's just really great to have a way to connect to other folks that have this same passion, and just figure out how to do it better and how to do it together. It's a really, really exciting way to create community in that way.
What do you think is important about membership organizations today?
I mean, I think all of this, it's like we are all banding together to figure out how to like forward this art form. And it's one of my favorite parts about NAMT are the happy hours and the events, and the when you're able to actually like have a mixer with other people and just talk about like, how do we make this better? What are the things we need to do to move this thing forward? Like, what are we missing? What are we wanting the world to look like? It's just really great to see members supporting other members in a similar goal,
Do you have a piece of advice for writers looking to get their work produced?
Well, I can only speak for me. And for me, the thing that attracts me to a project is not always, well, it's 4 people and 2 musicians. Like, I feel like that's a lot of what is the first thing that's shared with me, like the size and the scale. And that actually doesn't really do much for me. But what does get me excited about shows is focusing on why you're telling a particular story, the journey that character or characters are going on. I want to know like what your musical is bringing to the world, and I want to know where you're going to take me. I want to go somewhere I haven't been before. I want to meet people I haven't seen before. I want to hear a story that I haven't heard before. And so I get more excited about the why and the story than I get about the producibility and the budget factors. And I get that all of it may come down to that in the end, but there's shows that I've held on to for years that I'm just like, someday we will get to doing this show, because right now it's not right for us. But like, when we have the resources or we have the moment to do it, we will do it. And that's always going to trump these more logistical concerns about the producibility of it. Of course, if your show has 60 people in it, like, yes, that's going to be hard, and maybe rethink having your 60 person musical, but um, especially in the development sphere, and because I think I try to think as out of the box and as specifically to each project as I can. I might not be able to produce your entire 30-person show, but like, oh, you have the centerpiece of your show is this relationship between two people. I'd love to have you come out and workshop the material between those two people and give you two actors and have you come out here for a week and just work on those scenes and songs with them. Or there are creative ways to be able to support a piece that doesn't have to do with the whole entire show necessarily. So I'd say focus on the why and the heart of your story rather than how do I make this something that is producible or feels like something that people want to see. Because sometimes, I have this conversation all the time where like the shows that are winning Best Musical for Tony, the Tony for Best Musical are not necessarily the shows that you would think people would get excited about being pitched to them. You know, they're
Definitely.
all unique. They're all a little left. They're all a little like they're not the things that are what you would consider quote unquote producible or quote unquote commercial, but they're really good and they're unique and they take you somewhere you haven't been before. So that's what gets me jazzed about stuff.
Love that. And what's one change you'd love to see in how new musicals are developed?
Oh, I know exactly how I have a very clear idea of what this, in my opinion. Uh, I want to see more support for the actual work being done. I see so much emphasis on putting presentations together, and where a writer just sits and watches their show get learned and staged, and they don't actually have time to work on it. They get to go and sit in a room and watch really talented people get their show up for a presentation, and then they get to go back to their apartment and think about rewrites on their own. And that happens at all stages because I think we get so excited about the presentation. And if that is the purpose of the thing, then that's great. That's fantastic. I think one of the great things about the NAMP presentations is like it is about presenting the show so that other people can get really excited about it to then develop it. But I think the developers get really, really wrapped up in it being presented and showcased, and that's not always the thing that's going to actually help the writers do the thing. I'd rather find a way to have writers be able to make changes every day and or focus on a really specific part of the show or a really specific element of the show to help them actually write. It can be such a lonely process being a writer that it makes all the difference when they can adjust and make changes based on what they're hearing and seeing. And I think that will always be a better process than extra time to clean the music or stage a really clever staging at music stands that will never be used again because you'll never stage a show in front of music stands, right? So and that has been a big focus of my time at Village is trying to figure out how to help writers actually do the work while they're here rather than thinking a lot about it and then doing the work when they get home.
What's something that excites you about where new musicals are headed?
I mean, I think what I said about, the things that seem to be successful on Broadway these days, I mean, this season especially, there's so many original new musicals that are not, based on huge properties, not based on song catalogs, not based on movies. Some of them are, and that's great. Death Becomes Her is one of my favorite things that I've seen on Broadway. I love it. It's so much fun. It's so funny, but it also does it in a really original, fun way as well. But like maybe Happy Ending is one of my favorite things that I've seen in years. And it's like I'm excited for more of that. And I'm just excited that there's producers that are excited about that, and people are really willing to let those shows have their day in the sun.
What's giving you hope about the future of musical theater?
Maybe Happy Ending.
Good answer.
I mean, those pieces like that are really trying to do something new and fresh, and
Yeah.
Dead Outlaw, Operation Mincemeat. I mean, this is a great season for new musicals. It's really exciting. And that is really hopeful to me. And the ones that are based off of movies and catalogs and stuff are also great. Death Becomes Her is great. Like it's we're finding ways to do all of this stuff well, and that's exciting to me.
For sure. Awesome. Brandon, thank you so much for joining us today. This has been a great conversation. Before we let you go, we have a couple of rapid fire questions.
Oh, great.
So, ready? Favorite opening number of all time?
Oh, favorite opening number. Oh gosh. Can I say like the first half an hour of Next to Normal?
Yeah, works
Does
for
that
me.
count?
Works for me. Most underrated musical.
Well, it's also my favorite musical, which is Once on This Island. I think it is so well written, and I think it is underrated because it is so simple in its storytelling and its plot and its structure. But like, boy, it is so well done. There is no fat on that thing. It is just like so emotional. Um, the last 20 minutes of the show is just some of the best writing in musical theater. I just think it's just the best.
And first musical you ever fell in love with?
It's also the first musical I ever did, which was Brigadoon, which feels so
Nice.
random.
Love.
Just love it so much. I was a laddie when I was 12 years old.
Cute.
Brandon, thanks again for joining us today and introducing yourself and your work to the listeners. Where can folks learn more about you and your work?
Oh gosh. I mean, I guess I have an Instagram and I have a website. Go Google me or something. I don't know. I'm around.
Thank you for again for coming on. It's great meeting you and talking about new musicals with you and your passion for it. And we're excited about where the musical theater is going, and people like you are helping it along. So thank you for that.
Oh, thank you for having me. And thanks for giving a platform for all this stuff. This is just what you do is so great and necessary. So thank you.
Of course, we can't forget to thank our co-host today, Skye Ivey, for joining us today. Skye, thank you again, as always, for coming on today.
Yes. Yes, thank you.
All right. So once again, I am your host, Jean-Paul Yovanoff, and on behalf of NAMT and MTR, thank you for joining us today, and we'll see you in the theater.